Hello, friends. Transfer deadline day is upon us, and we are here to give you a little 10-minute guide to what may happen at Ipswich Town on deadline day. Always the most exciting day of the year. Well, I say always, not really, generally at Ipswich Town until last season anyway. Heath, Andy Warren to break that down for you. Andy, deadline day, how you feeling about it? It's not going to be as crazy as last year, but do you think much is going to happen at Town?
I think something will happen. Yeah. I don't think it's not gonna be quite the same as last year. There would have been more dramatic deadline days in Ipswich's history, but I think something could well happen today. Ipswich are in the game.
Okay, brilliant. Well, that's obviously where we're going to start. The Inns. So far this summer, they've seen 7 new faces. Not a patch on last summer's 19, of course. Probably a lot better in terms of squad cohesion. So in terms of Inns, Andy, there's been certain names we've heard all summer. Obviously, the Bersant Selena saga dragged on. That's now finished. We've had the Macaulay Bond and George Hurst constant links pretty much all summer. And there was a new name that you threw into the frame this morning as well, wasn't there? So do you want to bring us up to speed with the names, the links, and where we are with all the latest in terms of possible ins?
Let's start with George Hurst, who, as you say, has been discussed all summer. Interest from Ipswich all summer. He's at Leicester, of course, but spent last season in League One at Portsmouth scoring goals, and those goals and his performances there are why Town were interested this summer. A player that fits the system for what Kieran McKenna wants to do, but also a player in demand, a player that Championship clubs were looking at the time of recording this. He's heading to Blackburn by all accounts. Not done complete at this point, but very much heading that way. And Ipswich have stayed in contact throughout the summer. We understand, but they just can't offer championship football. That's not something Ipswich can offer. They've got a great set of selling points at Ipswich at the moment in terms of the direction of the club, the fans, the manager, the squad, the ownership, everything. But whatever they do, they can't offer championship football. So if that's the route that George Hurst, Leicester and his representatives wanted to go down, there's not much they could have done. So that's one that's not going to happen. But that is a position on the pitch where we're thinking about Ipswich potentially needing someone, isn't it? Because in terms of central strikers, it's Freddie Ladapo off the mark at last, which was great. Caden Jackson in support of him, and then John Jules and the rotational cast of attackers in there. But they need somebody else, and then the one name that we know of heading into deadline day that's a definite option is a young Dane at Sheffield United called Will Orsula, who neither of us know an awful lot about. But he's from everything I've heard and speaking to people about him, he ticks Kieran McKenna's boxes. So and that's the big thing at this point. Fitting the manager's style.
So he'd be a kind of young addition, Andy. Would you feel that's the right way to go?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I don't think age is an issue really. It's about style, attributes, and what they can bring to the team. I think we've seen already this season how important that central striking role is and what's expected of them. From what everybody that plays in it says, that's quite a hard position to play in Kieran McKenna football. So you need a certain set of attributes. By all accounts, Orsula has it. He's over 6 foot. He's big, strong, quick, versatile as well. So he isn't just a central striker, can play other positions. I would having heard a bit about him and watched a bit about him, he seems to me like a bit of a cross between a Ladapo and a John Jules, sort of somewhere between the two of those, and seems to fit what McKenna wants. So that's the big thing. Other clubs in League One interested, but we'll see if he's bound for Ipswich. There'll be other options too, by the way. This isn't all eggs in this basket. There are other irons in the fire. We just don't know about those yet.
One of those irons in the fire has been rumoured all summer to be Macaulay Bond. There's lots. We know the Macaulay Bond story. Obviously, gave an interview to Stu earlier this off season, saying how much he'd like to return to Ipswich Town. It looks like he's going to head out from QPR on loan. Town have been linked in the national media. What do we understand is the latest on Macaulay Bond, because that's certainly a signing that would split fans if it indeed is likely to happen. What's the latest, Andy?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Macaulay Bond. Clearly, he wants to be here, and clearly Ipswich know that he's been available for all of the summer. Really, obviously he's been involved with QPR at times, but I think if Ipswich had wanted him, they'd have got him. And the way we understand things at the moment is that a move for Macaulay isn't something that Ipswich are pursuing at this point. Be interesting to see which way this goes for him now, because this is a pretty big move for him. He's kind of put his heart on the table, wasn't he? He's told everybody where he wants to be, and the chances are that's not going to be possible for him. So, be interesting to see where he goes now. Personally, I'd have been okay with him coming back. That's just me speaking personally. I think I can see pluses for it. The minuses are that I'm not sure. Having said everything that I've just said about Orsula fitting McKenna's football and everything that he wants from a player in that position, I don't think Macaulay ticks enough of those boxes, quite simply. But I'd say never say never. But I think it's all sort of heading towards that not happening at this point.
Okay, and I guess before we move on to the outs, the other question that has to be asked, Andy, is how much will the injuries to Shawnee Aluko and Connor Chaplin last night, Dominic Ball finished the game limping as well, didn't he? How much do you reckon that will impact on what Town are going to do as opposed to what they were going to do on deadline day? Was Mark Ashton's dashboard being fired up late into the night last night, do you reckon?
I think it's constantly on simmer. They'll always be on the go, that. But I don't know. I think they want to add another forward player regardless. The worrying one out of those is Aluko, who it's not going to be days. I don't think that was Martin Pert's assessment of that last night. He could be slightly more long term. Chaplin's was just taking that as a precaution, taking him off the bench after feeling something in the warm up, and Ball was a dead leg, which ridiculously played on for 88 minutes and played pretty well on it. So that was impressive. But the Aluko one, whether they've got a full picture of that injury at this point or not, I don't know. But it might just serve as a bit of a reminder that we do need a little bit of cover potentially. That might be the conversation within, because Kieran McKenna uses 6 forwards in every single game. I think there's only one league game this season where he hasn't changed the entire front 3. So each of the 6 players that are available right now, that's Ladapo, Jackson, Harness, Chaplin, Aluko, and John Jules. Nailed it. They're all playing. So if you lose one from that, you lose a weapon from the bench. So I think another option is needed. Might just push them into doing a second one. Who knows? I'm sure that I've got a feeling there's going to be at least one new arrival, but possibly even 2. Who knows?
Do you think there's any argument? The persuasion, or well, the kind of instinct in football is always sign people. We need more. We need people to cover, etc. Do you think there's not an opportunity with those injuries for the likes of Cameron Humphreys maybe to step up? And we've seen him play in that kind of position behind the striker at the last game of last season, didn't we? And did pretty well. So could that mean opportunities for players like him rather than having to sign players?
That wouldn't be where I would play Cameron. I think I like him deeper. I see him as a central midfield player. So for me, no. Could he fill in there? Yeah, of course he could. But this is a team trying to win the title here and win promotions. So, and they are fortunate enough to be in a financial position to do this. So they're nothing silly. There's not. I think McKenna's pretty happy with the group that he's got. It's not a huge squad actually now. There's been a load of departures. But the fact that you can use 5 substitutes this season just means that those attacking options are all involved. It's not like the old days of 2022 prior to May where you could only bring 3 of them off the bench, and that might mean only one attacker gets on. You're getting 3 attacking players on the pitch every single game. So for that reason, I think that's why they'll be looking for somebody new, if not more than one.
Okay, so just to wrap up the ins, then we're sitting here. It's just gone 11 p.m. Thursday night. The window is slammed shut. You reckon 1, maybe 2 through the door, forward players for Ipswich Town?
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if there was somewhere else on the pitch. But I think I think they have to be looking at the forward areas of the pitch.
Okay, that's the really sexy stuff done then. We also have to look at the outs, and there's been a lot of them, like you already say, Andy, so far this summer. 16 to date. A lot of players gone out on loan. Raheem Harper and Matt Penny, the latest last week. So the big question is, are we expecting anything in terms of departures on deadline day? There is one saga, which hopefully is going to get drawn to a close, and that's the young striker Tyrese Simpson.
Yeah, he's the one. I think and I'm sure there will be a departure. We've run a story this morning, Stuart Watson, talking about Huddersfield, which has been spoken about for several weeks. We know that one was significantly advanced, deal agreed there and everything, but Stuart's reporting late interest from West Brom, and while there's nothing signed, sealed, and announced from Huddersfield, there could be other options for him. But I hope that one. I just hope that one gets resolved one way or another on deadline day, because I think it would be best for everybody. Now it's reached this point. How it's reached this point is open for debate, and whether it should have is there to be debated too. But now it has. I just hope that for Tyrese's sake, as much as anything, that it does get resolved and he can go and play football, and everybody can move on from it.
Okay, and obviously it's difficult to ask this question before the window's closed, but if that is indeed what happens, and Town are sitting here tomorrow after the window's shut, with 8 or 9 maybe new signings and 17 going out, how would you feel, Andy, in terms of kind of grading, if you like, the window they've had over the summer?
Very good. I think there's one forward addition short, potentially. And on the face of things, I guess somebody like Orsula, a 19-year-old, he's only got 5 championship appearances. If it is him, it may well not be him. There are other targets as well. Maybe you could argue that was a little underwhelming, but I would also at this point argue that John Jules has probably surpassed expectation. We're sitting here at the end of August. I think he's made, in my mind at least, has kind of made the jump from kind of the young flyer who has the upside but not the risk. He looks to me like he's made the jump into being a solid, dependable player who can work the system and play really well. So he's maybe filled a gap himself that we maybe thought existed. So I would feel good about their business. I think they've streamlined. I think they've added quality in certain areas. Leif Davis in particular, I think, is, after a tough start, bit of a rough one on debut for him, he's really come into it in this month. He's given them a balance that the team just hasn't had under McKenna and previously. That there was even one game where we came away from it thinking that Ipswich had more of a threat down the left than they did the right, and that's quite something. You're raising brows. That's not something we've discussed, is it? So Dominic Ball, we've only seen him for one game, but on the evidence of that, he's everything we thought he would be. Just to add a bit of steel and something to the back there. Richard Keogh, we've seen for one game, adding something. And then hopefully that there was a question over Ladapo, but he's got that goal now, and hopefully that frees him up a little bit. But that I'd be happy with the squad come the end of the window. Even if there was nothing from this point, I would be happy. I would like to see one. I would like to see one more though, to bring a bit of depth, a bit more depth, and some quality too.
Okay, well, that's the end of your. I said 10 minutes, didn't I? It's about 15-minute guide to what we think might happen on transfer deadline day at Town. 1 or 2 in and 1 out, we reckon. But who knows? That's the beauty of transfer deadline day, isn't it? So follow all with us. Andy and Stu are going to be working the phones as they always do on deadline day. And we'll bring you all the latest as soon as we have it. We'll also try and bring you a podcast as well after the window has closed. We will see you on the other side.